the new Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS.
It's premium, it's polarizing, and it's British.
But most of all, it's a big displacement naked bike with an 1160cc 3-cylinder engine, making it narrow, torquey, and undisciplined, yet a comfortable and practical riding position, and no windscreen in sight. This doesn't count.
AKA the perfect recipe for a delinquent looking for a great all-rounder. Now refined with new Öhlins smart suspension that have more settings than my iPhone and enough rider aids to piss off a technophobe.
But it can't possibly live up to its stiff competition. Can it? Well, to find out, I get to spend the next 127 hours with Hinckley's best, and then we get to see how it stacks up on the leaderboard, currently topped by its nemesis, the 1390 Super Duke.
Thank you to Rebel Horn for keeping me protected and sponsoring this video.
Now, I really am excited about the new Speed Triple for 3 rather strange reasons.
Firstly, the only Triumph I have ever ridden was a Speed Twin 1200 5 years ago.
It wasn't my cup of tea.
Secondly, the 1390 Super Duke might currently top the leaderboard, but I also think it is one of, if not the best bike I have ever ridden.
And lastly, I actually have a Speed Triple 1200 RS. This is a 2023 model, so now it's old and outdated. But I bought it as a project bike, so I haven't even ridden it yet. That means I get to ride the new and improved version before even riding my own one. How can I possibly like it now?
Hence why I talked Triumph Johannesburg in South Africa into letting me spend a few days with their new Super Naked.
It's easier than finishing mine, and now I can waste a bit more time while I wait for my folks to get back.
So if you're local, Triumph Johannesburg should be your go-to for a new Triumph, a used bike, an excellent workshop, and even some apparel or accessories. The bad news is that my ride home was short because Triumph is just around the corner from me. The good news is that I was in my neck of the woods right away, so its quirks were immediately apparent. The dash startup screen is long but cute. However, it's another bike that doesn't like to share the coolant temp with you. Its initial tip over is very light, which, paired with the smooth triple and quiet exhaust, means it takes minimal energy to ride. Your weight has to be entered, so the electronic suspension can set a baseline for you, and it leads you to believe that you can literally weigh a ton, but then maxes out at 140 kilograms.
And my exposure to technology didn't stop there.
The front suspension was noticeably diving under initial braking, so I stopped to check the settings, and sure enough, the front firmness was set to -2. So I upped it to +2 and my problems disappeared.
Usually, I gradually dive into all the settings, features, and rider aids over the course of my time with a bike. But since I've never played with a Triumph before, and since this bike got me into the suspension settings right away, I just kept digging.
On the surface, there's the same 5-inch TFT as before, activated by a keyless ignition. It looks premium with its unique shape, but a slimmer bezel would look more modern. The basic layout has a tachometer, speedo, fuel gauge, gear indicator, and time of day and temperature in each corner. It's not the cleanest layout, but it kind of suits Triumph. My complaints come when you want more info like trip data, fuel range, or even just the odometer.
Everything seems to be hidden in a sub-menu, which makes it difficult to find while riding.
Then there's the switchgear. It looks and feels great. Between the home button on the right grip and the mode button and this joystick on the left grip, you can navigate the menus.
When it comes to riding modes, you get rain, road, sport, track, and 2 modes that you can customize to your liking.
And absolutely everything can be customized, from traction control to wheelie control to engine braking to suspension, which I'll get to in a minute. And it all starts at around $20,000.
Right from the Speed Triple's launch back in 1994, they looked weird, with the bug look that you either loved or hated. The newer ones have always looked better to me, and a lot of modern naked bikes are gravitating towards more abstract designs, and as a result, I think the Speed Triple has really come into its own.
Those bug eyes have nice modern running lights, topped with a fly screen that's an optional accessory. This color scheme is the definition of elegant, albeit not very memorable or flashy, which is the opposite of a typical naked bike owner.
This line that skirts the tank, splitting the silver and the grey with the yellow Lumo RS logo, really is gorgeous, and the camera doesn't do it justice. The new exhaust that makes it Euro 5 Plus is shorter but fatter. Ultimately, it's hideous, but you can't blame Triumph for trying.
Weirdly, it has a soft limiter here and won't let me rev it. Unless I just grab a handful quickly and then it suddenly revs to the red line.
It also hides the new rear wheel design that should be on show thanks to the single-sided swing arm.
Öhlins suspension always looks the bee's knees, but personally, having a cable protruding out of the forecap or the shock looks a bit silly. You can't beat old-fashioned knobs and clickers.
On the last generation, the front mudguard was carbon fiber. Now, it's plastic. This only really annoys me because I just had to pay $500 to replace my carbon one because I didn't know that a plastic one was coming so soon.
Another downgrade, in my opinion, is the silver stanchions. The previous gen had posh gold ones. The tail got a slight redesign for some reason. The seats have fancy stitching, and I think we can all agree that Triumph make the best bar-end mirrors in the business. The bluing headers also caught my eye, but I really wish these cool dots on the tank were painted on and not just decals under the clear coat, because it just looks bubbly now. But I guess the T-shaped taillight kind of makes up for it.
And finally, I love this axle cover accessory here with the Triumph logo on it. However, if you do install this, you can no longer put the bike on a paddock stand.
If you're a Triumph fan, you better care about those small details, but I wanted to get a few more hours of riding under my belt before deciding if that special feeling continued out on the fun roads. But in reality, it feels familiar. A little twitchy, but familiar. Like that friend you don't speak to often, but it never feels like any time has passed when you do. It just feels easy and safe to ride quickly. Or, sticking with bad analogies, it's more like a blended coffee than a single origin. It feels like a blend of an older superbike and a naked bike.
It is not a purebred naked bike raised to wreak havoc, meaning it's not a Super Duke. A Super Duke would be a single origin coffee in this case. Nothing is as mental as a Super Duke, and it's an acquired taste.
The Speed Triple is much more user-friendly. Even something like an MT-09 feels more boisterous off the line, despite making less torque. Power bands and gearing are a wonderful thing, but the Speed Triple reminds you that there is no replacement for displacement and just keeps revving and pulling, more like a sport bike would, making adequate power everywhere.
If you were to blindfold me, I don't think I'd be able to tell what displacement it is.
Down low, it feels more like an older superbike, but a bit later on in the revs, the familiar naked bike torque kicks in and the front wheel takes flight.
This updated triple makes about 3 horsepower more than the last generation, and the 95 pound-feet of torque arrives 250 RPM earlier, for what it's worth. In theory, this engine is the centerpiece of the bike, since there is no other super naked with a triple.
It feels pretty compact even for me at just 5'7". I'm just shy of flat-footing it, and it's a pleasure to push around.
For the most part, it fits little old me very nicely. It's only when it comes to trying to squeeze the tank with my knees that I feel a little bit small for it. It's also got a new Marzocchi steering damper, which I think it needs because it does seem prone to head shake at times.
But then again, the forks do seem pretty high in the clamps, which does impact handling. In the corners, it keeps you on your toes, but that adds to the fun. blitzing from one corner to the next with a great induction noise all the way and sticky tires underneath you.
This past week, winter officially hit us, so I was relieved to have these removable waterproof membranes in our jackets to keep my wife and me warm.
Rain or shine, hot or cold, we're still protected with removable
Shoulder, elbow, and back armor,
as well as adjustable waist, wrist, and bicep areas, because a safe fit is a snug fit. Hence why there's a male and female variant tailored to our different body shapes.
These Rebel Horn Jax jackets are aimed at the everyday urban rider like myself, and they offer a great balance between protection, style, and price.
The feature list is long, with a waterproof pocket inside and a zip to attach it to riding pants. Of course, they don't just sell this one jacket, they have an extensive product lineup, including any gear you can think of.
So if any of that sounds interesting, I'll link them down below so you can see all the color options, competitive pricing, or just the best way to keep your partner safe. If the terms rebound or compression damping confuse you, then you will love the new Öhlins Smart EC3 suspension. I think that's right.
The preload is still adjusted manually, but it'll even give you on-screen suggestions if you want to follow them. Then it's like setting your damping in a MotoGP game. You can alter the firmness front and back, dial in the amount of support it offers under braking, cornering, cruising, initial acceleration, and I guess real acceleration.
It is honestly brilliant. I am not opposed to spinning a wrench, but I hardly ever play with my manual suspension settings while out riding, simply because it's a faff. This makes it fun. It actually makes you stop and pay attention to what your suspension is doing and contemplate what you might want it to do better, and then experiment with it. In lingo, even I can understand.
This means it can be plush enough around town and also well behaved with its sensible power curve and riding position that makes it easier to see around you. It also never whines about getting hot at slow speeds, but that is just one of its personalities. The mirrors aren't great, my elbows are constantly in the way. The fueling on shutoff is sometimes a bit jerky, and that wheelie control is a riot, encouraging naughty antics and making someone like me, who can't wheelie, feel like a hero.
And I imagine this fly screen is working pretty well because it's very comfortable on the highway and it keeps most of the wind off of your chest. My chest is pretty low to the ground though.
My research suggested that it only begins to give you a neck workout at about 180 kilometers per hour.
Fortunately, the cruise control is very easy to use with a set and resume button that also increases or decreases your speed.
However, I'm 90% sure the speedo overreads because I was getting passed by cars with the cruise control set to a motorcycle appropriate speed.
It also seemed a bit inconsistent. Sometimes it would let me downshift to cancel cruise control, and other times it wouldn't let me shift at all. I'm not sure why.
Keeping up with expensive European goodies, it has 4-piston Brembo styler calipers that are radially mounted and a snazzy radial Brembo master cylinder as well. They're all you could ever need or want, with a Brembo caliper on the rear as well that is really strong. And since I'm going to have the previous generation soon, my wife was keen to test the passenger amenities, and here are her profound insights as always.
It's a wide seat, but it does get a bit hard after an hour or two. The tank is a little bit far away to lean on comfortably under braking. Obviously, there are no grab rails, so the only thing to hang on to is the rider, but that is the nature of a naked bike. But it does mean that you will bump helmets quite a lot.
The best compliment it got was when she asked me if it even had a quickshifter, because she's never experienced such smooth downshift with a quickshifter before.
And she's right. A quickshifter always feels smooth when you're on your own. And then you get a passenger on the back and you realize that it wasn't quite as smooth as you first thought. But this one is silky smooth. As the rider, the extra weight of a passenger does somewhat throw off the balance of the bike, given the upright seating position of a naked bike, and it does slightly take away from some of its sporty nature.
The truth is that Triumph weren't shooting for a Super Duke.
They created exactly what they wanted, and it is a brilliant bike that ticks all of the boxes.
It's unique looking, feels a tad special, It's plenty fast enough, a great all-rounder, and could keep you entertained for almost long enough to pay it off. The Super Naked segment is incredible at the moment, with V-twins, superchargers, V4s, crossplanes, inline 4s, and even a triple thanks to Triumph. And this experience has gotten me really excited to finish building mine.
The best way to describe the Speed Triple is neutral. It doesn't do anything remarkably well or anything badly, and as a result, it could easily slip under the radar. Nevertheless, 127 hours later, the Speed Triple is back with Triumph Johannesburg. So now we get to give it a score out of 60 to see how far below the to see where it lands on the board. It could totally be at the top. I'm supposed to be building suspense. Styling. A good design is polarizing in my opinion, and I am on board for this. 8 out of 10. Practicality. I think this is what Triumph were working towards most of all, and it could easily be your commuter, your weekend weapon, and your track bike all in one. 9 out of 10. Fun. It undoubtedly has character, but that character is more like a lawyer than a filmmaker. Price. It's not cheap. It is premium, but I'm not sure that it's special enough to warrant its price tag. 6 out of 10. Speed. It's deceptively fast. Speed is in its name. 8 out of 10. Sound. As always these days, we have to dig deeper than the ugly stock exhaust. But beyond that is a unique, throaty sounding triple begging to be unleashed. 8 out of 10.
Giving the 2025 Speed Triple RS 46 out of 60 and placing it in a BMW sandwich, just above an S1000 XR and below the S1000RR, leaving the reigning champ undefeated once again.
But anyway, let me know which Super Naked you would buy if money were no object, and I'll see you on the next ride.